Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
And that was a video of Ted Cruz as he was booed off the stage at the RNC convention, and this is when he refused to endorse Donald Trump. Now, Cruz said one of the reasons he doesn't support Trump is because Trump, I guess, insulted his family, talked about his wife or about his father. And while I do not encourage those things, I know that those things are rather common when you get into the election cycle. He says, go with your conscience. And when you think about it, many people are in the left-right paradigm, which would say go with your conscience, go with Hillary Clinton, and why he would endorse her over Trump is a far mystery to me. I guess you could also talk about other guys like Gary Johnson, the Libertarian Party, but I think he was referring to Mrs. Clinton when he made that statement, and he's saying that she's going to be better for the country. And as a Republican, him being a Republican, not myself, I was very surprised and shocked to hear him say that. But I really think we've learned a lot about Ted Cruz here in the past year. Previously, he had done a lot of good stuff. He talked about the Federal Reserve and other things I liked about the guy, but when it came down to the brass tacks, you know, he couldn't be bothered to show up for a vote for the Federal Reserve, many other things as well. And that's just who Ted Cruz is. Now, earlier in our broadcast, Darren McBreen brought you a lot of news about attacks on police officers, and I'll touch on one here, a very deliberate attack in Australia. And they said basically somebody filled up a vehicle full of gas bottles and they drove the car inside the police station to a parking garage, but the car did not explode. They're saying it's still under investigation and they'll get to the bottom of it, try to figure out exactly what the guy was up to. It was put out there that it may have been a terror attack, you know, in the conventional thought of a terror attack, but BBC pointed out there's no official confirmation. So we'll keep an eye on that as things develop. Now, with that in mind, we definitely know that police have a very dangerous job, a very thankless job. While we do see the very unfortunate things that the police do, oftentimes we don't see the good things that they do. You know, we don't see them helping old ladies across the street or getting the cat out the tree or, you know, walking kids home in a bad neighborhood. We oftentimes see the bad. So you have to be conscious of the good and the bad, but you also don't neglect the bad. You understand that it's there. You try to understand why these things happen. And this is one of the things that many people do not understand why it happened at all. And this was a gentleman, Charles Kinsley. He is a service worker. He works with autistic people. He had one of his patients wander out of the group home and out into the streets. The gentleman, the autistic gentleman, had a toy truck. It's walking around a neighborhood, and people called in saying this guy was toting a gun. And this is what really concerns me, because people always want to talk about the open carriers and all this stuff. And it's really not the issue, because when you have people that are carrying a toy truck, or we've seen schools get shut down because people had umbrellas, or kids getting kicked out of school because they're playing with colorful, like orange and green Nerf guns in their front yard. It's not the open carriers who are doing this stuff. It's how people respond to it. Open carry is a completely different thing. But basically, back to the story of Charles here. He was lying on the ground with his hands up in the air, you know, hands up, don't shoot, laying prone on his back, had his hands in the air, talking to the cops, talking also to his patient. He's telling the patient, please get down on the ground, put your hands down. The guy's being uncooperative. And lo and behold, a police officer fires off a round and shoots him in the leg. Now, there are many different videos of this. Every single one I saw doesn't show the shooting itself. It shows Charles before the shooting and after shooting, after they have him handcuffed. So if there's a video out there, you can put it in the description. I'll be happy to look at it. But Charles says he was shot in the leg, and he talked to the officer. These are the words of Charles. He says, "Why did you shoot me?" And the officer responds, "I don't know." That is just beyond comprehension, how you can have a guy who's being so compliant, trying to be so polite, having a good sense of communication with the officers, and the officers shoot him anyway because they're so on edge. And that's by no means an excuse for what the officers did. The officer definitely needs to be reprimanded, and I'd say flat out he needs to lose his job. If you will shoot a guy unarmed on the ground with his hands up, there is no excuse for that whatsoever. Even if people did call in as a guy with a gun, that's why you go investigate. I understand, you know, if you get a call, a guy in a gun, you may show up with your heavy armor, maybe your rifle out, but you go investigate. You just don't shoot a guy especially the guy who didn't even do it. He didn't even have the object in his hand, which, as we pointed out, was a toy truck. But that's enough on that. Now, let's talk about something that's going on overseas. And I hear these stories rather often. And to an extent, I always thought they were kind of old wives' tale. Like, you don't go to that country. They don't have these self-defense like we have here in the United States. And I'm not just talking about the right to bear arms. I'm talking about self-defense in general, where they would arrest you. And I hear people, I even heard Alex say, well, nah, come on, Alex, it can't be that bad. Well, it is that bad. Here we have a story here. 4 years in jail, damages. Finnish man sentenced for defending home against invasion. And this is back in April. A 35-year-old man heard a knock on his door. He went to open it, and in rushed 3 intruders holding baseball bats and a gun. The homeowner, then retreated to his kitchen where he found a knife and was able to fight off the intruders, 2 men and 1 woman. So I want you to picture this. 3 people rush into your house. One of them has a gun, at least one of them has a baseball bat. They're in there, they're fighting you. You go, you grab a knife, you fight off 3 people armed with a gun and a baseball bat. Now, I would say if that happened here in the United States of America, I'd say, hey, that's great. The guy, he went in there, he whooped him up. He's defending his home, his castle. He wasn't in violation of anything, thus is my opinion, because you hear stories here in the United States, well, maybe you chase the guy down the street, you shoot him in the back. You can't do that. But this guy wasn't doing that. He was in his home. He was in his castle. He picked up a weapon to defend himself. And now he is getting a tougher sentence than the people who actually invaded his home. And the homeowner has been convicted of excessive self-defense and attempted manslaughter. He will serve an unconditional sentence of 4 years and 2 months, which he will spend in prison. He's also will pay damages to his attackers. So these people broke into his home. They attacked him in his home. They used a gun on him in his home, brandished a gun on him in his home, brandished a baseball bat on him in his home. And because he picked up a knife, he has to pay them $23,000. Does that make sense to anybody who's listening to this? And these are the type of laws people have to deal with overseas. But to tell you what happened to the home invaders, all 3 received a 1 year and 2 months conditional sentence, which is similar to probation in Finland. And they've also been ordered to pay the homeowner $3,300. So they have to pay him $3,300, but he has to pay them $23,000. He has to pay them $20,000 for breaking into his house with weapons, with a gun and a baseball bat. But the homeowner has to pay them. And this is the kind of backwards logic that we see going on in the world today, where if you defend yourself, they say something's wrong with you. I was actually watching one of those judge shows. It's like there's a million of them. But basically this guy, he was out somewhere and some guys were trying to get rough with his wife, with his girlfriend or whatever. So he takes him on. And then the judge is talking down to the guy who was defending his wife. He's like, well, you're not a tough guy. You should just let him do it. He's like, so I'm just supposed to stand there as these people attack my wife? No, the guy was like, he wasn't, UFC fight. He wasn't Tim Kennedy or anything like that. The guy said he did a little bit of wrestling in high school or college or whatever, and he knew a little bit to defend himself, and he actually did defend himself. And the judge wants to, point the finger at him, like, you should just let him steal your purse and smack your wife. And I'm like, what is this mentality here? And not just in the United States, but in the world, this curl up in a ball, safe space, do whatever you want to me, just not in the face kind of mentality. So that's my rant on that, and that is the News Blitz for the day. I'm Jakari Jackson reporting from the Infowars Command Center.
And it's that type of behavior that spurred me to do the research to develop a true nutraceutical formula that was designed to smooth out and help children focus. All of our children are hit with modern mind control. Television, music, fast food, GMOs, sugars, you name it. Young humans have not yet developed their nervous system and are being hammered daily by globalist concoctions. It's no wonder they can't focus and calm down and then are put on dangerous psychotropic drugs. Working with my team, we set out to find the best formula with the highest quality ingredients that children would actually like and take. We worked with the leading manufacturer in nutritional supplements that are safe for children to bring you the most affordable and powerful calming formula out there. Introducing Child Ease with herbs and calming extracts like chamomile and lemon balm and essential nutrients that taste great. Obtain your Child Ease today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's Child Ease exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com.